Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another Tea Talk Tuesday episode. Today, we are going to talk about fermentation and its health benefits. And when we get to the end of the talk, we're going to specifically talk about kombucha. So first and foremost, you've probably heard of fermented foods, and the first thing you thought of was sauerkraut. Right? That's the first thing I always think of when I hear anybody talk about fermented foods. And I'm not a big fan of sauerkraut or cabbage, although I'm learning to like cabbage a little bit better, but it's the first thing I think of. And growing up, my grandparents had a root cellar full of jars of food, and little did I know back then that they were actually probably masters at fermenting food, which they preserved them and they used them later, right? Now, fermenting foods has been around for hundreds of years. It's not something new, but as the convenience modern day society and our commercialized food industry evolved, things like canning, pasteurization, using preservatives, refrigeration, and even freezing really replaced the process of fermentation. So it's not practiced and it's not found to be as traditional as it used to be, right? So as the process of fermentation sort of faded away, so did the health benefits, because the health benefits of fermented foods are tremendous. Now, a few weeks ago, we talked a lot about gut health, and including fermented foods in your nutritional routine can have numerous health benefits, specifically for those microbes, those microbiota, right, that are living in your gut microbiome that we talked about. We talked about good bugs and bad bugs. And fermented foods are really good for balancing the good versus the bad in our gut. Now, as Dr. Will Bolsowicz always says, I call him Dr. B, he actually wrote a really good book. If you guys are ever looking for something to read, it's called Fiber Fueled. Highly recommend reading that. Just a great book overall about picking the right foods to eat and making sure you're incorporating enough fiber into your daily nutritional regimens. But he says that when you ferment foods, you actually make the food even healthier, believe it or not. You're growing new microbes, you're transforming fiber, and you're generating bioactive peptides and polyphenols. All powerful things. Now, that process of fermentation causes the release of acid that's actually going to lower the pH and alter the balance of the bacteria in the food that's being fermented, right? And that's what creates that sour taste. Now, it's these acids that have the health promoting properties in them. And it's these acids that can help with things like reducing inflammation. They offer antioxidant properties in our guts. Vinegar, which is actually the fermentation of alcohol, can improve insulin sensitivity. It can improve fullness after meals, promotes weight loss, and it even can help lower blood pressure and cholesterol levels. So lots of health benefits with fermented foods. Now, fermented foods offer us the ability to increase the number of microbes and the variety of microbes in our nutritional routine. And I know you're wondering how and you're wondering why, but studies have shown that the microbes that are in the food that we ferment, right? The microbes that are in that food, when they go from that food through the transportation, I call it the human transportation system, right? So they go in our mouth, they go through our esophagus, down through our intestines, and eventually end up into our gut. The microbes survive that entire journey. So the effect that these microbes have on the foods when it's being fermented is the same. They do the same thing. They mirror that process in our guts when they get inside of our guts. It's like magic, right? So we want to get these microbes into our daily routines, into our nutrition, so that we can reap the benefits of the work that they do when they get into our gut microbiome. So it is important to understand too that these microbes that we're talking about, they all have their own digestive enzymes, and they all have a very specific task within our system. So essentially these can't say that word, microbes actually create nutrition in places where it maybe previously didn't exist by actually calling upon certain enzymes inside of our systems to do a specific task. So it's like science happening inside of your body as you consume fermented foods. So basically, in essence, fermentation can improve the nutritive qualities of food by basically reducing the anti-nutritional values or compounds that are found in certain foods. So I know that's very scientific. It's a lot of information. Dr. V does a great job in the book of explaining it. But with all of that being said, what fermented foods can we eat, right? What are fermented foods besides sauerkraut? Because that's the only one that I was familiar with. So aside from sauerkraut, there is kimchi, which kimchi is actually another form of fermented cabbage, but it's traditionally found in Korea. Miso, which is a paste that's made by fermenting soybeans with a fungus. Tempeh, which is a fermented soy product from Indonesia. Sourdough bread, and then kombucha. Now, of all of those, I don't know about you guys, I've just started exploring with miso. I don't eat sauerkraut. I've never tried kimchi. Maybe I should expand my food palette a little bit. I have not tried tempeh yet, but that's something that I'd like to try. But I'm not getting a lot of fermented foods in my diet. So the way that I incorporate fermented foods is by drinking kombucha. So I know, right? Yep, you've heard of kombucha, right? It's all the craze. It's in all the magazines. It's in all the websites and the Instagram feeds. It's kind of everywhere. It seems like all of a sudden everybody's drinking it. But I want to talk about it for a minute because it has become so trendy that I think perhaps people are making too big of a deal out of it. Because yes, it certainly offers health benefits that we've already talked about, right? But it offers health benefits, but you can't just incorporate kombucha into your nutritional regimen and do nothing else and expect to reap the benefits from it. Okay. So it's got to be part of an overall holistic, balanced approach to a healthy lifestyle. So what is kombucha? Kombucha is a fermented tea, and it's really rich in beneficial probiotics, and you'll hear that a lot. But what people don't talk about enough are all the other vitamins that are in it, right? You get vitamin B1, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, vitamin C. You're getting antioxidant polyphenols and those healthy acids that we know help our gut microbiomes, right? So there's so much more than just the probiotics, which yes, the probiotics are wonderful for our gut, right? So adding kombucha is a wonderful addition to your routine. But here's what I want you to know. I forgot to grab the bottle out of the fridge. I bought a bottle the other day at the grocery store to show you guys. They come in larger bottles, probably like maybe 12, 16, sometimes even 24 ounce bottles. And that single serving bottle that you see in the grocery store, it's going to say one serving on the label in most cases, which means to most people, oh great, I can drink the whole bottle, right? Do yourself a favor, especially if you've never had kombucha and you don't incorporate a lot of fermented foods into your routine. Don't drink the whole bottle at once because you are going to get a stomach ache and your body is not going to be happy with you. Kombucha can be acidic, and if you're not used to that and your system's not used to that, it's just not going to agree with you. It's going to be very upset with you for downing 16 ounces of kombucha in 20 minutes, okay? I recommend 4, maybe no more than 4 ounces at a time, 6 tops at a time. And I don't even drink it every day, you guys. I incorporate it 2 to 3 times a week to incorporate that fermentation into my gut microbiome. I suppose once your system's able to tolerate that acidity, and if you're okay with acidic foods, you gradually increase that from 2 to 3 times a week to 3 to 4 and so on, okay? If it's too acidic for you to drink, or if you are worried about the acidity levels, dilute it with water. Take 4 ounces of kombucha and then 4 ounces of water. Dilute it down and enjoy it that way, okay? But it can really be beneficial for your gut microbiome, your gut health, your inflammation, with overall illnesses and lowering cholesterol levels, lowering blood pressure levels. It can also help with your liver function. So we know our liver sort of filters out toxins, right? It can help improve your immune system, your gastrointestinal functions, just all of those things that we've already talked about. So it's really beneficial if you can incorporate it. And it's an easy way to incorporate fermented foods, especially if you don't eat kimchi and sauerkraut and miso and all of those other things. So why bring up kombucha, right? Because Sipology offers kombucha. They don't offer it pre-made. What they offer is a DIY, do-it-yourself, kombucha at-home kit so that you can make your own kombucha at home. Now, I have to be 100% honest. I have not ordered the kit yet. I haven't tried it myself yet. I do plan to. I have done a lot of research. I have, in my nutritional studies, come across other doctors and nutritionists who they don't like to buy the store-bought kombucha because oftentimes there's a lot of additional additives and sugars and added sugars in there that don't need to be there. So they just like to make it themselves because then they can control what goes in it. They can control the flavor and the acidity and all of those things. So Sipology offers a DIY kombucha kit. Now, basically, the way that you make it, now, if you were to buy the kombucha at home kit, you would actually get a guide that steps you through exactly how to make the kombucha yourself, okay? But let me just flip over. So the kombucha at home kit, it's the starter collection, and it comes with the party entertainer, which is this glass entertainer here. It comes with the universal kombucha cover, which is the black cover. It comes with the kombucha green base and the black base teas, your kombucha guide, and your organic SCOBY. So let's talk briefly. How do you actually make kombucha? In a nutshell, I'm not going to cover this all today because if you guys are interested and I get enough people interested and we all purchase our own starter kits, what we'll do is create a group and kind of do it all together because I think it would be fun. But it's basically 5 steps, right? So you're going to steep your kombucha-based tea. So it's either the green tea or the black tea. And you're going to add sugar to it. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, she's saying sugar? She's going to add sugar to it? Marcy B doesn't eat sugar, right? I'm not a sugar promoter. You guys know that. But listen up, because what happens is when you're making the kombucha, you take the tea, you mix it with sugar, right? You're creating essentially a sweet tea base. And then what you do is you put that SCOBY in there and the sugar feeds the SCOBY, okay? Now, SCOBY is a combination of a specific yeast and bacteria, and it actually stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So the sugar feeds the SCOBY, which aids in the growth and then the development of those beneficial colonies of bacteria. Those are the things that make kombucha so good for our gut health, right? So the yeast in the SCOBY is actually going to consume the majority of the sugar that we use in creating the kombucha. Now, when you go to the grocery store and you pick up a bottle of kombucha, if it's got like 24 grams of added sugars, check the ingredient list because it's quite possible they're adding additional sweeteners on top of what was used to actually make the kombucha. So you kind of have to read between the lines a little bit on some of the kombucha labels or do your research, get on Google and try and figure it out. So you're going to steep your kombucha-based tea and add sugar, okay? Then you're going to filter and cool your brew. You're going to add some cooled tea mixture, your SCOBY and your starter liquid. And then you're going to watch and wait. And after about 4 days, you can start to taste it to see if it's at the acidity level that you're looking for. If you don't really like the taste, you can wait another day and taste it again. You can really taste it up to 10 days, I think. And then if you want to flavor your kombucha, Sapology has a flavoring collection that you can also get, but you can use basically any fruit tea. So like this collection comes with cherry sangria fruit tea, berry mania fruit tea, and magical mango. So if you have a fruit tea, you could use that to flavor the kombucha. But then you do a second fermentation and you essentially create the flavor for the kombucha that you want. Now, like I said, I have not actually tried this process yet. I intend to. But what I would love to do is get a couple of people who also want to try to make their own kombucha at home, and we can all do it together because I think it would be fun to step through the process. Sapology has their own Facebook group, all dedicated to making kombucha. It's different recipes. People get in there and ask questions if they have questions about their scobies, because you kind of have to create a SCOBY hotel, and it's like a place where your SCOBY lives. So you can use your SCOBY for your first kombucha batch, and then you store it, and then you use it for your next batch. So you can use a SCOBY for a long time. But that's kombucha at home from Sapology. It's pretty awesome. The flavoring kit, if you do the starter collection, it comes with this, which is what you make the kombucha in. But then the flavoring collection, let me flip the page really quick. Yes, so the flavoring collection comes with 4 brew and serve bottles, which are these bottles. And actually, I have some brew and serve bottles on their way to my house soon, hopefully. They are part of our March host special, which I was able to take advantage of as a sapologist. So they should be here soon. So I'll be able to do another video and show you guys what those are like, because you can actually use these brew and serve bottles, not just for kombucha, but if you do a big pitcher of iced tea and want to store it, so many different uses. But anyway, so that's kombucha at home from Sapology. So basically, to boil it down, for your health, for your nutrition, it's beneficial to include fermented foods and fermented drinks, and kombucha is just a great, easy way to include fermented foods into your routine. Like I said, don't consume more than 4 ounces a day. Your gut doesn't really need more than that. You're going to get the benefits by just consuming that small amount a day. Don't drink or down an entire bottle at once, because you're really apt to get a stomachache, especially if you've never had it before. And if you're thinking you want to do the kombucha at home and you've never had kombucha before, do yourself a favor. Google some really good types of kombucha that you can buy at the grocery store or buy at your local coffee shop or somewhere, and try it first before you invest in the at-home kit, because I would hate for you to invest in the at-home kit and then you make it and you hate it. So do yourself a favor if you've never had it and try it first. But that's it. That is Tea Talk Tuesday. Fermentation. You should include it into your nutritional regimen. And kombucha is a wonderful way to do that. If you guys have any questions about anything we talked about today, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Have a wonderful Tuesday.